This episode of Bullet Heaven HD was made possible by Dejica. In episode 85 of Bullet Heaven HD, we took a look at Shooting Love 10 Shunen, or 10th Anniversary, for the Xbox 360, a region-free compilation containing 12 Zeal and Delta Zeal from Triangle Service. Though relatively pricey, we came away satisfied with the hardcore gameplay that the package offered. Hot on the heels of Shooting Love 2000X being released on Xbox 360's Games on Demand service, Dejica has seen fit to release 12 Zeal to Steam as well. How does this half of Shooting Love 10 stand on its own? Let's take a look. We took a pretty in-depth look at 12 Zeal's gameplay back in episode 84, but that was over like 50 episodes ago, if you can believe it. So let's see what makes 12 Zeal tick. For this playthrough, I used the Razer Sabertooth controller. The idea to 12 Zeal is that your ship can attack in all four main directions in order to chain up as many foes as possible. Three main attacks exist. The main shot is mapped to the A button in a single shot manner, and to Y as a rapid shot. The main shot can be leveled up several times to a maximum level of 4. This shot does a fairly good job of taking out your typical enemies, but there's a better way to do it. Wiggling your craft allows for a supercharged side-firing attack which cuts through most enemies like a hot knife through warm butter. Wiggling the stick can be pretty imprecise and cause unnecessary movement in places where you might want more control, so an auto-wiggle is mercifully added to the X button by default. Your craft's exhaust is also a weapon and allows for lesser enemies that might approach from behind to be taken out with ease. Knowing when to use and how to use all three of these techniques is critical to scoring high, which we'll take a look at shortly. Beyond these main techniques, a bomber attack is also available, which behaves a bit differently than your typical screen clears you might be used to. A field is activated that nullifies bullets for score and causes a good amount of damage. While in the field, players can also collide with their opposition without consequence for massive wiggle damage. Of course, care should be taken to avoid enemies and their attacks as the field fades, so timing is critical. 12 Zeal has a total of 8 stages, each more intense than the last. It's definitely a game that will keep players on their toes. No big deal, since the controls in 12 Zeal are particularly tight. Using the Razer Sabertooth specifically, even analog control feels balanced and natural with what feels to us is zero input lag. If it's there, it might as well not be. Great stuff. There are also score attack stages that open up for each stage that's cleared as well. Of course, local co-op, Tate support, replay saves, and multiple difficulties for players that want more challenge are also available. And thankfully for novices, additional credits open up for players that need a bit more assistance. So the gameplay is simple, as is the case typically of most of Triangle Service's games. This is where the scoring comes in. In 12 Zeal, the main hook to the scoring is chaining up enemies using the side attacks and rear exhaust. Chains will build up to a maximum multiplier of 12 and will slowly count down if enemies are not dispatched with another side or rear attack. This will likely make up for the bulk of your score, and for the most part, all of the enemy patterns will allow for decent chaining in this manner. Using the bomber attack in strategic places can also result in some insane scoring possibilities. Bullets that are cancelled in the bomb's field are converted to points at steadily higher values, up to 1,000 points apiece. Especially in the case of some bosses, this can lead to an absurd amount of bonus points. Collecting power-ups beyond maximum power also grants a smooth 1,000 points extra. At stage end, players will see a graph of how well they are doing in regards to the highest scores recorded locally. Player scores are uploaded to the leaderboards for normal difficulty single-credit play. Continue, and it's all just for fun. When a score is uploaded, players get to see instantly which numeric position they stand against players around the world. Truly great stuff. Now, we may have been a little harsh with the presentation aspect of Shooting Love 10 Shunen. In fact, we went so far as to call both 12 Zeal and Delta Zeal, well, ugly. Of course, hot on the heels of Mushihime-sama Futari and Esquilita 2, the visuals are like night and day. But there's a lot of detail here that I suppose we were blind to. Everything is actually animated really well, and with options to play with both pixel-perfect and smooth visuals, not to mention Tate support and scaling, 12Zeal's visuals, while simple, work really well, and have a certain flavor that we've come to appreciate. I personally prefer the super chunky unfiltered mode, but the smoothed out mode also works well, and having several resolution modes is helpful if by chance players still use a CRT. The sound is still a bit on the iffy side though, with a lot of the same effects getting pretty tiresome after several stages of them playing almost constantly. The music is not especially bad, but not exactly our favorite either. But again, it works. The mode select music makes a comeback from Shooting Lev 10th though, and it's a pretty funky piece that we've always kind of liked. The dynamically changing home screen is also back and is still pretty darn boss. Having the achievements translated is also a nice touch for players that may not have had a commanding grip on the Japanese language for the previous release. Speaking of language, options also exist to change the language in the game from English to Japanese. And, as always, Tate mode allows people with vertically oriented monitors to play 12Zeal the way it was meant to be played. So how does this standalone version of 12Zeal stack up? Let's take a look. Zeal's controls are actually super sharp no matter what control method is used, and with no hint of slowdown or input lag. With several difficulties, there's a challenge here for any player. At 8 stages, 12Zeal is a pretty decent length, and the online score chasing and score attack modes add a ton of replay. The super chunky pixel-style graphics actually hold all kinds of detail, and we've really become accustomed to their style. Sweet mechanical design is prevalent throughout the game. The sound isn't especially gripping once again, and some of the sound effects can get pretty grating at times, but it still works. The simple yet complex gameplay and scoring here makes 12Zeal engaging and fun to play, not to mention fairly fresh on the whole. On its own for just less than $12, 12Zeal is a pretty awesome value thanks to its relatively low price point, enhanced online leaderboards, and solid gameplay. This is one Triangle Service game you shouldn't miss. 12Zeal gets a 4.5 out of 5. You can get your own copy of 12Zeal today on Steam for just $11.99.